Hey everybody, welcome to Myopia Movies. This week we are starting a month of some of the worst of the previous year. The Academy Awards was just a few days ago, and I don't know if you watched them, but I had not seen many of the movies this year, which is embarrassing for a movie podcast, but with young ones you do what you can. So I will say I had wished Conclave had won more. Anyway, so for the next month we are going to do some of the worst movies, weirdest movies that we did. Obviously, we're not going to dig low and find B movies, but we're going to do things that were released in theaters and were disappointing. And frankly, I don't think too many things will be a surprise. Now, this first one, Megalopolis, of course, is Adam Driver and a stellar cast directed by Francis Ford Coppola. And I will say, the more I watch this, the more I really like it, but it's too strange not to talk about, so enjoy. Check out us everywhere. Nora's been putting up TikTok videos on TikTok. We have an Instagram account and a link tree, and just follow us wherever you can, because we appreciate it, and the more you share it, the more people find us. Thank you very much.
Welcome to Myopia Movies. This week we're going to start a month of the worst of the previous year. The Academy Awards are coming out this month, and we wanted to remind you that we exist, and we are so fucking topical. I'm turning 40 in 5 months. That's why I know what the pulse of teenagers are. And you know what the pulse of teenagers are this month? Shia LaBeouf's pubes. We talked Megalopolis 2024's Francis Ford Coppola's self-indulgent project. I'm your host, Nick Hoffman, riffer on Cineprov, and on panel we've got
Keiko.
And also Matthew W. Quinn, who is not a big fat architect person.
Hello, this is Daniel, and those pubes were glistening.
And we're going to the club.
We're going to the club. All right, that was the GIF right there.
Oh, dude, I'm gifting all over my pants. I want to say two things. First of all, I saw this in the theaters for free with a buddy of mine who's also in Scouts with me. At one point, he fell asleep, and I was so close to the edge of my chair that I fell off at one point when I yelled, "What the fuck is happening in a movie theater with people I wanted to like me?"
Now, considering
What got this response to...
Which part?
Dude, there are so many. At one point, John Voight gets the hammer where he says, "Do you want to see my boner?" And I was like, no, but also somehow yes. And the opening credits, dude, you don't need subtitles because the stupidest stuff is written on the screen, where Larry Fishburne, Morpheus himself, starts out by saying, "America's an empire and it's going to fall. It's chiseled in the wall here. Moving on." And like,
And these are all title cards that look like something out of Bram Stoker's Dracula, previous episode, also done by Francis Ford Coppola.
how self-indulgent in this movie? How do you think it ends? Anyone? Well, to the listeners at home, how do you think it ends? If you guessed he rewrites the Pledge of Allegiance, Francis Ford Coppola, you are completely correct. Also, great guess. Because I know you didn't see this movie.
It's up to the and also the lynching of Shia LaBeouf.
dude,
Yeah.
Shia gets hung like fucking Mussolini in this movie, and he stands on a swastika while, dude,
We dressed like a Roman legionnaire.
We should go ahead and decide one thing right now. Is it Shia or Shia? How are we gonna? It's Shia. Okay.
actual cannibal Shia LaBeouf. And you know what? Here's the thing.
Well, he sure did want to eat Aubrey Plaza very badly on camera. And
She sits on his fucking face.
Making him call her auntie.
Dude. Great wit.
As he was shooting that scene, Francis Ford Coppola was like, "I got that after take 3. We're on take 20 now. I'm just enjoying myself a little too much."
Dude,
What a seat, never mind. Hey, what do you think of this boner?
Frankie, why are
gonna think of this.
What he said. I want to get it right. He said.
And then Francis Ford Coppola shoots him with a crossbow.
Yeah.
It can be whatever you want, Keiko.
What I really liked is that was like in the last 10 minutes of the movie, and I feel like at that point in the movie you're so like jolted and twisted and whatever that you're like, yeah, sure, we'll see it.
It wasn't in a crossbow. It was like a regular bow and arrow that this old hoveled man managed
Yeah,
Tiny boner.
yeah, and it takes him like 3 or 4 seconds to fire it, so no one does anything.
No one reacts. And I will just stop here. We will go through this whole movie somehow. God knows how this episode is going to unfold. I'm going to say I'm not going to recommend it or not yet. But you should see because this movie makes no sense. And some of you will listen to it. I know on average our episodes, how many people listen to our episodes, and it's a lot. You need to listen to this after you see it, because we're your friend who also went through trauma with you.
We're not saying that it won't seem like a fever dream whether or not you watch it.
The play is trippy.
The movie doesn't make sense.
The Pacific Ocean is a little damp, Matt.
So I guess if we're starting off with that, the movie does not make sense, but it is very beautiful and it's intriguing. So
Yeah.
like,
And I will give the plot synopsis here because it makes no sense. And we're going to spend too much time. And again, it's me doing a kindness to you because I don't want to get into the weeds yet. Because again, the 3 wonderful podcasters here saw it with me. And for me to say, hey, Matt, give me the plot synopsis, after 45 minutes, I'd have to cut you off. And I'm the only one here who's had the benefit of seeing it twice. So I will just give it a stab here. Adam Driver, who plays Catalina Caesar, is a brilliant inventor. In fact, he's won the Nobel Prize, for inventing a chemical / metal / building material called
Megalodon.
Megalodon. It's made out of dinosaurs.
And will fight Godzilla at some point.
Yeah, it and Jet Jaguar.
And the whole point of it is that it can do whatever you tell it to do because it's the most MacGuffin that's ever MacGuffin.
They never actually explain what it is or what it does. I mean, at one
point it cures him. At one point it fixes a dog's leg, and at one point it's a Vestal Virgin's dress, and it can be.
It also
parents.
Works as a moving sidewalk somehow.
It's magic. It's the movie Flubber, starring Robin Williams, explained Flubber better. Anyway, unobtainium from the core, previous episode. Anyway, so his great uncle is Crassus, played by Jon Voight, and the Crassus family is opposed to the Cicero family, played by Giancarlo Esposito, who is the mayor of the town. The whole plot of this is Julius Caesar, the Shakespearean play. As Julius comes to power, he needs to be assassinated by Brutus, while Crassus's family is supporting him, and Cicero's family is trying to strike him down. But it's Julius Caesar as seen through the eyes of old New York, and Robert Moses is trying to rebuild the town. And Robert Moses, of course, as Catalina Caesar, played by Adam Driver, who we see is knocking down buildings to build his utopian community of Megalopolis. Oh, and by the way, he has the X-Men-esque power of being able to stop time.
All of this is stuff that happens in this movie, although I have to disagree. It's not really like an adaptation of Julius Caesar, or even like a modernized version of it. They make a few references to it, but it's...
And all the characters are named it, and he does get assassinated.
Well, and then he comes back to life, which Caesar didn't do. But
there's the Cataline conspiracy.
That is the M. Night Shyamalan-esque twist. But what it... Or Owen Wilson from not Rushmore, it's the Royal Tenenbaums, where he goes, so my novel supposes that, Custer died at Woot, but what if he didn't? So what if in Julius Caesar didn't die? And he fused himself with unobtainium.
The Cataline conspiracy, which is more shenanigans in ancient Rome.
Which is a real thing.
Well,
they do allude to.
It's supposed to be Cataline.
According to this movie, the answer, if Caesar come back to life, is a lot of boring shit occasionally livened up by Aubrey Plaza.
And pubic hair.
Although,
and Adam Driver telling socialites, well, go back to the club.
And I mean, that's the plot synopsis. He's trying to build a utopia. and Cicero and his family's against him. And by the way, there's a love interest, which Juliet's the whole thing. Her name is Julia. It's not a stretch. No one had to work out before they stretched that far.
Coppola thought he was being so smart in writing the script, and it just turned that into something, at first glance anyway, that just seems so dumb.
We're 10 minutes in and we haven't resolved anything yet.
No, we haven't. I don't think we're going to on this one episode. It's just...
Do we start out in the orgy club?
Yeah, sure. Start there.
Start us off. No, you.
Oh,
Yeah, start us off in the orgy club.
what happened there? We were
Or start us off wherever you want, because here's the thing. I've now seen this movie twice, and to me, it's kind of like a liminal space where nothing makes connections, because I can just jump around. Like, did you know John Voight has a penis? Because he doesn't, and it turns into a bow and arrow.
You like Angelina Jolie somehow.
That is true.
They don't talk either, so who knows?
I feel like this movie, like there is a plot.
Yeah.
It's just interspersed between a lot of like weirdness, because there's the Aubrey Plaza and Adam Driver, like, forbidden romance that he seemingly is not really that interested in. And then he meets this new girl who's very intriguing to him. And he shows her his, like, magic
Megalon.
Megalon power, which is invisible and I don't magical.
And so in the meanwhile, the jilted ex-mistress marries John Voight,
his uncle.
or something.
She gets married to his uncle, but she's still jealous of this, new girl that's been talking to him, who is a family enemy.
She's Mayor Cicero's daughter.
Yeah, so
who's known for her party girl antics.
I just keep trying to think of like what would make it good. What would make it good?
What would make this movie good?
Tighten it up.
Fix it, Nick.
I know something you don't want to
Honestly,
do.
what I was thinking immediately was, what if it was all in like Italian and there were subtitles and you watched it like a foreign film class? You'd be like, my God, this is brilliant.
I feel like that's how I watched it.
But that's the thing. The problem was that Shia LaBeouf cannot be anything other than American.
Yeah.
Right? He's like, hi there, well, I'm there, I'm an American. Like he can't be Welsh. He can't be hello, I'm Scottish Shia LaBeouf.
Well,
He tried that once and he got beat up in an Edinburgh bar.
I believe it. Although now my wife will tell you this is true, and she's not here. So hello, Candace. No, one time we were in a bar in North England, and I was very drunk, which is a shocker to anyone who's ever listened to this podcast. But we were watching football, which is soccer for Americans.
Yeah.
And my brain said, do a Welsh accent. And I did. And the guy next to me goes, she slapped me on the back and bought me a beer.
oh, yeah, nice.
That's the only times anything has ever worked.
What does a Welsh accent sound like?
I need to drink. Sorry.
I've got one way to fix this movie. Have actual characters. Because nobody in this movie, none of the characters have any sort of arc. They begin where they are and they stay that same way. You could describe them all with one sentence, which sometimes can be good, but this way it just makes them completely unrelatable.
Are you saying Adam Driver being shot in the face and just going, is not a character?
No.
No, they froze our...
For once, it doesn't sound like Buffalo Bill.
You want to build a fat building?
Yeah.
I will say the one character who has development, who's kind of the most interesting, is Aubrey Plaza. Wow, Platinum, because like she's a hanger-on, she's a gossip columnist. She attaches herself to two powerful men. She marries the wealthy one and then makes a power play.
You know, the entire time though I was watching that, and she is probably the most interesting thing in this movie. The entire time I was watching it though, I was like going, this is pretty much House of Gucci, if you remember seeing that movie.
Solid film.
Which, it's not the best, but it is fairly solid.
Nice. It said a more linear plot.
Isn't Adam Driver also in?
He is also in that. Yes.
I mean, and I will say this movie, I will disagree with you in one aspect, which is I do think it reaches for things. It might not always grab them, but like this movie doesn't hold anything. There's no subtlety here. It's like a Hunter S. Thompson or Terry Gilliam movie. Like, and maybe the best comparison is Terry Gilliam, because like Terry Gilliam either wins or he loses. There's no draws in those kinds of movies.
Who is that?
Terry Gilliam is in Monty Python. He technically directed Holy Grail and Life of Brian.
Just Terry Jones did Life of Brian, but all those like weird little cutout cartoons that Monty Python did that were in like Holy Grail stuff, he did those.
He also did Fear and Loathing.
He's a movie director too.
Time Bandits.
Romeo plus Juliet?
No, that was Baz Luhrmann.
Baz Luhrmann.
So I feel like this movie was very reminiscent of that movie.
Yes.
The sort of mixture of like a classic, play. It's a play in a movie, but it's super dramatic and trippy and like wacky.
Well, also like Romeo plus Juliet, the editing here was atrocious.
Yeah.
But to your point, I think it is exactly that. But I and maybe Sudsy will disagree with me here, but I feel like Baz Luhrmann watched old Coppola.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe.
No, and then was inspired by that. Now Coppola's like, oh, is that what they're doing with my films? I better go back and do this with my... Because again, like, I haven't seen Coppola's Great Gatsby because it hasn't been filmed, but Coppola's Gatsby would not have... Is it R. Kelly who did that score? Or did he?
Oh, with Baz Luhrmann's Great Gatsby?
It's a rap score done by someone. But I'm just saying, like, it's the same kind of party scenes. It's like
it is.
Drinking.
It really is.
It's Coppola saying, like, oh, is that what he's doing with my shit? I'm going to be even bigger this time.
Well, you know something, and Keiko bringing up Romeo plus Juliet reminded me of this. This whole thing is like it's a parable of like, what if Rome were in modern America? That movie already exists. It's based on Shakespeare, a Shakespeare play. It's called Titus. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's
Hopkins.
Anthony Hopkins is in it, and who else is in that? Jessica Lange?
Jessica Lange is in it, yes.
Anyway, though, it's doing, I think, visually and artistically what Coppola wanted to do here, rebuild Rome in a modern society, except that movie was fun.
First of all, you're wrong, because we were told at the beginning it's not a parable, it's a fable. And
you're right.
Says colon a fable. And we, as Matt mentioned earlier, we get these scenes out of Mist or something where it's just like fake granite on a fake texture on a fake screen. And by the way, Frankie, if you're spending $150 million, or what'd you say, 200?
It was 136. That's what I saw.
You could afford a sheet of granite that someone actually chisels into, so it doesn't look like bad CGI nothing. Because spoiler alert, turns out Megalon is fake and all of it is CGI nothing.
Yeah.
So you better fucking show me something that is real.
Yeah.
And Adam Driver's like incredible face, like nodules, like everything from his dimples to his forehead is the most real thing that exists. And frankly, I will give it to Coppola to say I'm doing that on purpose because his face is interesting to look at. And even Aubrey Plaza, they give her a lot of, I'm not going to say plastic surgery, but they give her augmentation with the makeup and the way she's dressed.
She's extravagant.
And Shia LaBeouf, who I think is pretty good in this, they shave off his eyebrows, they give him weird hair so that he looks different. And so therefore, Adam Driver is the one person who has his actual body.
I feel like Shia may have been the best. I mean, Adam Driver is good. He's great, but Shia was the one that I looked forward to seeing. Like, I'm like, oh yeah, it's going to be a fun scene, you know.
He dresses in drag and falsely accuses Adam Driver of having his way with a Vestal Virgin.
I'm going to give the credit here to another reviewer named Chris Cabin, but he's a delicious spice. Like, he couldn't hold down the movie. but Adam Driver holds the
Mhm.
movie
Yeah,
fine.
yeah.
So then sprinkling a little of that Shia LaBeouf character,
That's an
It's-
interesting word choice considering
yes,
we saw his pubes in the
of
movie.
course, but it does make it spicy.
Yep.
I wonder how much she and Frankie had to fight over that one part where he's in drag as to whether or not he'd be wearing underwear under that costume. Because there's a scene where the robe is like blowing up or it's moving to the side, and he's got like some underwear on,
Wearing like some kind of
flesh-colored underwear or something. But I'm wondering if Frankie's like, no, we're not. No, put the underwear back on. No, I'm not filming a tape
Shire's
with
like,
that.
I'm all in.
We've done it 6 times, and the way the wind sweeps across your pube, we'll save it for later, buddy. I promise you, your pubes will be in the well manicured, friend.
Yeah, maybe the acting, the actors are doing what they can with the material, but again, it's such thin material because the
Yeah.
characters are so weakly defined. I mean, even just looking through the Wikipedia page now, there's a whole bunch of footnotes on like, okay, patrician architect Caesar Catalina, and then there's a footnote. His surname is a reference to Lucius Sergius Catalina, a populist Roman politician, blah, 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 blah.
Okay.
That's not a character.
Yeah.
And he's so obsessed with building these like ideas of a new Rome that he forgets what makes a movie a movie.
Well, and again, this is why when like a fantasy sci-fi action author goes, well, this is based on a campaign from the Roman Legion when Julius Caesar invaded Belgium. No one cares. No.
Yeah.
Just make
Tell
me a
the story.
movie.
And Robert Heinlein, meanwhile, sitting back going, everyone cares about that, dagnabbit.
Well, where are the tits? Oh, I mean, don't worry, there are tits in this movie.
Yeah.
Turns out sometimes it's just nipples glued to bald people's heads in a dance sequence. But and that's, I think, also the problem too. Like, and for those of you who are fans of Fancy Ford Coppola here,
Yeah.
I do like his movies. I think Apocalypse Now and the first 2 Godfather films are masterpieces.
Oh, I mean, how can you collectively hate all of his movies? He's had some clunkers before this one. I mean, Jack, but
And even Godfather 3 is not great, but it's
not as good as the other two, but it's definitely
still
worthwhile.
On this the day of my daughter's shotgun wedding.
That's right. And just
We're gonna build a new city.
And-
Not personal, just business.
Yeah, that's Matt trying to be Marlon Brando. Although, as I pointed out to Matt, on this the day of my daughter's wedding, the daughter's in this movie, so
Yes.
Talia Shire.
and I just will add, I feel the same way about this. I just don't know. This is his most self-indulgent film since Apocalypse Now, in some ways. Maybe there'll be a good documentary about how this
What
came
does he
together.
think of it?
Who?
He loves it.
Francis Ford Coppola?
In fact,
Oh,
he's responded to people's letterbox reviews saying, I think it's pretty good. I know, I'm the director.
Yeah.
And the writer and the producer for The Greater Glory of Francis Ford.
He's done a lot of private screenings of this. He's really pushing this. I mean, this is a script he worked on for like 30 plus years. He was going to do it right before 9/11, but then
Maybe I'm just really stupid.
No, you're not.
And I just don't, like, I don't know.
You're here because you're not really stupid. We've had really stupid people on the podcast, and I just removed them from the group.
Okay.
No, I want perspectives from people who don't get it, because the first time I saw it, I like cancer, it just grew. No, I saw this and I was just like, is this awful? And the more I thought about it, it just stuck with me. And so I'm not going to do this, but I could almost do this where I just say in a week, Keiko, give me 5 thoughts about this movie.
You're gonna reach out to me and be like, hey, give me some thoughts.
Because again, like, this movie I hated. And so when I told these people about this, when I saw it months ago, I was just like, so you see Shia LaBeouf's pubes as his aunt is making her eat him out.
yeah.
Go on.
It makes sense in context.
No, it
Does-
does not.
And then, at one point, Shia LaBeouf, who is apparently Donald Trump, stands on top of a swastika stump to give a stump speech, while women in bodices wearing red, white, and blue encourage him.
Well,
They're his sisters.
Well, considering how many Shakespeare plays he's trying to mush together here, that scene with Shia's pubes is really just Lady Macbeth trying to tempt Macbeth into seizing power. But I can't think of a single adaptation of Macbeth where it involves him eating her out while she's talking about her plan.
Including previous episode Macbeth, where we did the Denzel Washington version, which is a fucking masterpiece. Right?
I have not seen that, I don't think.
Dude, watch it. Frances McDormand is Lady Macbeth.
Oh, there you go.
When I was in high school, we watched the Hugh Hefner produced Macbeth from
There's
the 70s.
There's a Hugh Hefner. Okay, did that involve Lady Macbeth having
Walking naked.
Were there pubes?
Were there pubes?
No, they shot certain angles to avoid too much, but
It was the 70s.
It's
That's
the
a
70s and it's financed
There were a lot of pubes in the
Yeah,
70s.
it's financed by Hugh Hefner and it's the 70s.
And
I'm
we're not
disappointed.
judging pubic hair, of course.
No, it's just the presence of.
Well, in the 70s, they used to have perms. So, you got to understand. Actual pubic hair.
Oh, absolutely. Speaking of movies with pubes, we were talking about
Go on.
while we were watching this, we were just sort of spitballing movies that it reminded us of or whatever. And we talked about Poor Things, and I found this movie to be pretty reminiscent of that, and like the way they're telling the story and the filming and like the way it looks and feels. So
I think Poor Things had better effects than this one did.
but it has the same kind of like flatness.
I get what you mean. Maybe this movie will age well over the next 4 years or so. We're recording this on December the 20th, and in exactly 1 month,
Happy Honda days, everyone.
yes, no, this is, I come from a Toyota-thon household, so unfortunately I don't celebrate.
LaBeouf is the best actor to play me possible. He's so shredded, and he still has his hair.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm just saying that the whole idea of, a few rich families trying to dictate power over an impoverished nation that's only getting worse.
Dude, and how
might
often
be
do we
coming.
cut to Tiny Tim behind that chimney?
Oh, yeah.
The little
The
kid.
one kid, that one, like, pop art kid wearing, like, a hat, a soft cloth cap, going like, oh, no, Mr. Shia LaBeouf, could you give me $100?
I'm not going to try to predict the future, but maybe in the next couple of years, we'll get like a Caesar sort of figure. And everyone might be like, maybe he was on to something. That's not now, though. And I mean, that still doesn't distract from the fact that this was really heavy-handed in every single metaphor it was trying to make.
Yeah.
there are red hats at one point.
Yes, it's their
red hats. There are people holding signs that say "Make Rome Great Again."
Because we're not in New York or Atlanta where it was filmed. We're in New Rome, as we're told by Larry Fishburne in the beginning. And we had subtitles on, which never kicked in. But at the beginning, the subtitle was chiseled into marble, which was not. And again, it's easy, Frankie? Paying someone $50 to chisel anything into marble. The fact that it's CGI and it looks like you're on your Windows 95 computer really sucks.
It was papyrus font.
Yeah.
But and then they're like, you know what? We don't need special effects. Aubrey Plaza's nipples, like because these people are nude. Like this movie.
I think Frankie was a little more interested in her posterior as opposed to her nipples.
Yeah, we have several people grabbing her ass, which
Yes.
again,
Including John Voight, which I'm sure she was happy to film.
do you like my bona?
So was John Voight worse in this or Anaconda?
Better than Anaconda because the snake, his accent, the snake, it will get you. When he gets spit out from the snake and he winks.
Okay, yeah, all right. There's no improving on that.
Is he supposed to be? Do you not like him because he's a bad actor? Or just don't like him as a person?
Yes. I mean, he used to be a great actor back in the 70s when Francis Ford Coppola was making great movies. But
Cowboy is one of the best movies ever made. The problem is now he doesn't have to try, and he
hasn't
not
had
to.
He hasn't had to try for a while. I mean, he was helping finance Baby Genius's sequels.
Yeah, because Baby Geniuses was the thing. What was it? We did the first one,
Yeah, we did the first one. There's at least one other that Keiko laughs. I'm not joking. He was in, I think, the second
He was in
one.
4 of them, I think, and he produced them all because the first one made money, and then one wanted to make a sequel, so he did. No one wants to hire him. Apparently, he's an asshole on set.
Yeah.
And was he in the first Tomb Raider movie?
Yeah.
Yes, he was, because of Angelina Jolie. It was like
Previous episode, but like I think we did. I've seen them both. I think he's only in the first one because they tried to mend their ties. He was upset that she was adopting black people.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah. He's a very old conservative type, and he's a very Trump guy. And he was upset about her lifestyle where she was adopting minorities.
Well, I mean, even then, back in the day when he's an Oscar winner. I mean, he was in this great movie that I think was called Coming Home, where he was
he's in Coming Home, Airline in vet. Yes.
Yeah, and that's the sort of stuff he was making back then. And I guess as he just got older and those sorts of roles dried up, and he was doing stuff like Anaconda, and I guess that's just the path he decided to go down. There are a lot of weird casting choices in this movie, though. There's him, there's Shia LaBeouf, who I can't remember the last time he was doing much of anything. Dustin Hoffman is in this movie, which I don't think we've mentioned yet.
He feels like it's like a Tarantino thing, right? Where he's just like, I like this actor. I want to see what he can do.
So let's have him play Hitler with a cross-dressing Hitler with a mullet.
But he's actually doing like the Roman salute at a couple times. Like, it's very strange, but it's not, because he's trying to do a Trump thing.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, I don't have words for this movie. I'm trying to get through it. Like, what scene do you want to talk about? Do you want to talk about the scene where they're like standing in catwalks above a version of the city, and they're talking about what they want to do? And
yeah, actually, that's like the very beginning of the movie.
Yeah, do it.
Is when they are on these weird, like, catwalks are they in a?
They're in a black box theater.
Oh, so we're not talking about the scenes where it's like, Adam, you drive around those steel girders.
He's talking about the very beginning, when Adam Driver first sort of talks about this stuff to the crowd, and Aubrey Plaza is filming him, and we don't know that they're a couple yet.
Right.
Yeah, she's WoW Platinum,
and the mayor's there, and so it's like this whole thing, like, and I think that's when you like know that it's going to be super weird. So I am glad that it started off so weird, but I also had Nick talking about Shia LaBeouf's pubes for a few weeks before we actually watched it.
So there's a Steve Barton zone where the weirdest thing has to happen first.
I don't.
So the club orgy sequence, that's after this?
Yeah,
Months after this, years after this.
Actually, there is one specific
scene. The mayor's daughter, she's snorting coke off her friend's chest.
That's true. Like you do. Apparently, that's what happens in the VIP lounges at the Fox Theater. I never been there, so I've never been in one of their lounges. Yeah, that's where it was filmed.
It was fun seeing Atlanta filming stuff.
Yeah.
Like we saw
even though it kind of starts like, so this is New Rome, and why is there a Midtown Atlanta bear behind their system?
It's the Ferris wheel.
Yeah.
It's always weird. I went to the theaters with my buddy, friend of the show, Zach Krause.
Zeus.
To watch the first Black Panther movie, and there's supposed to be this heist at the British Museum, and it's the High Museum, and they're just in an alleyway next to it, and I'm just like, I know that.
Yeah,
Is that where Mr. Popper's Penguins was filmed?
I think so.
There was a bait
Because
there.
there was a big scene at the end of that movie. No spoilers, sorry if you haven't seen it.
The Mr. Popper, they were, yeah, the crazy twist that everyone is afraid you're gonna ruin.
But all the penguins escape in a museum, and it has it's almost like a big circular slide.
Yeah,
That's right.
That's right.
You really want to go old school? Go watch Manhunter, the original Hannibal Lecter movie, and his prison cell is in the High Museum.
I will also just toss out there, maybe the best use of Atlanta is Baby Driver.
Oh yeah,
In the opening
I want to watch that.
and again, you don't have to watch the whole thing, but that opening sequence I could watch. It lives, as Sudsy would say, it lives rent free in my head.
yes.
It just, it's tuned perfectly to music. I got my PhD at Georgia State. That's where it starts, and the whole thing is through Atlanta. Because what's his name? Wright.
Edgar Wright.
Edgar Wright was going to do Ant-Man, I think.
Yeah.
And he was going to do it in Atlanta, and he scouted out all the locations, and then they fired him because it was too silly. Is it like, I will make my own movie with blackjack and hookers, and that's what he made.
Well, also because he didn't want to make an MCU movie, he wanted it to be a separate thing, and they're like, no. But that's why. There's one specific scene that I would like to talk about in Megalopolis. Irene, I wish we could talk about David Driver.
Is this they sell virginity or
No, it's the scene where Adam Driver gets shot in the head, and then everything that happens after that. Because first it's a 12-year-old that shoots him. It's great. That part was actually a lot of fun because he's like autographing one of his books for the 12-year-old, and they're like having a little chit-chatty conversations like, Sam, I like that name. It's direct. How old are you? You're 12? Do you think I'm 12? This is how human being talk and human being do. And then a kid just pulls out a gun and shoots him right through the eye.
dude, he is a Hey Oswald. He's like, oh,
And then I thought that the movie was going to actually start getting interesting. But no. First we get this like trippy little thing about Adam Driver narrating how he won't let time hold down his thoughts. Did anybody get the quotes that he's talking there?
He's stopping himself from dying.
Yeah, with
He's
his
saying,
little
I won't let time stop. So he's saving himself.
And then he goes into a hospital, and then there's no blood. He doesn't really have a gunshot wound. What it looks like is that he's missing an eye, and like half of the skin on his face is just melted off, but it looks perfectly clean. I mean, I'm making it sound a lot creepier than it actually is. And
It's very artificial, so it's
Yeah.
really not as like.
I was gonna say it's the opposite. It reminds me of Metropolis, the old like android movie. Well, it's German neorealism, or sorry, German post-construction.
you know what? Had Coppola decided to remake Metropolis as an allegory for Rome in the U.S., better idea.
But
That's what I thought this was.
It feels like that, right? Like, because he loses his eye, and we see like skeletal tissue underneath it. It's it's transparent for a lot of it. And since we don't understand what megalon is, the magical properties come later. And so, like,
We see his face bones glowing at one point when he sits up.
and then we see like 8 of him with his double chin thing, right?
Yeah.
But we are alluded to that earlier because when we get to the Vestal Virgin scene, which we should talk about for 3 weeks, the whole thing is that this woman who looks like she's leaving 10 Things I Hate About You, Styles.
Yeah.
Oh, the Vestal Virgin character?
Yeah.
But like as she's singing, she turns into 5 versions of herself, which is what happens to Adam Driver as he turns into 8 versions of himself later on, multiple times. Because when he's getting shit hammered and doing blow in the Fox Theater, there's also 50 of him talking to 50 different women who we assume he's hooking up with, I guess. Because they're selling the Vestal Virgin's virginity. It is a high sex scene, but instead he's doing arm gestures like he's a Brahmin in some sort of like
Evil circus.
And I think
Hindu text.
And if at one point he also, in his tripped out state, beats up Shia LaBeouf's bodyguard.
Which is why he ends up hospitalized later. But, like, if it doesn't sound like we're making sense, you're right.
Yeah, this movie's weird.
Oh, really?
Yeah, all right. I think we're good. I think
This is why we haven't done an episode on Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, but only because I would talk about it for years.
Well, I mean, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas also had a better point.
You
And
guys watched The Fountain?
yes,
It's one of my favorite movies, and this movie also made me think.
that's the one with
Yeah.
Hugh Jackman in it. It's across different time period.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's also simpler. Like it has the trippy CGI stuff, but I feel like the plot is simpler. So like the confusing stuff in it, I feel like is more acceptable because the plot in that movie is he's just trying to save his wife. Like that's all it is.
Yeah.
And in this movie, that part is
That part's missing.
Which
Wait, no. We just don't know if his wife is dead or not.
no. But there's all this other stuff that is really happening. Like, and yes, he also wants to save his wife, who may or may not be dead. She also might be pregnant with twins or rocks that are painted like humans.
The uterus is a crazy place. Could you imagine finding the clitoris? That would be like it just. Jokes aside, what? I don't know what is happening.
Yeah, it's a weird one. It's a weird one.
God help me. Keiko is just between you and me now. We've lost the other two.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still here. I'm on the IMDb page trying to figure out something more to talk about. And like,
Maybe
this was a Midnight Cowboy reunion because Dustin Hoffman and John Voight shared scenes. That's kind of cool.
Gets destroyed by falling stones
Maybe-
because a Russian satellite is crashing into Earth, ?
No, it's like somehow the Soviet Union still exists, which, again, I don't necessarily mind when... I think it can actually be quite creative when different films are matching up different, like, eras of time together. I mean, David Lynch does that all the time. But here it's just so confusing how they're doing it because, like,
Actually, you know what, though? You gave me a thought. What would be an interesting Lynchian thing because of his obsession with the Black Dahlia? What if it started with the murder? And then we have to unwind it.
Oh, like, you mean Adam Driver getting shown?
You think this movie needs more mystery? No, I think it's a good idea. I'm just messing with you.
First of all,
Make it more confusing.
but what if something actually held it?
No, it's like
What
Memento.
if something grounded the fucking...
Yeah, like Memento, that where you're figuring it out from the end. You know.
You know what? That reminds me. Fuck the people who've tried to say, like, you know, in Memento, I've put it in order thanks to my editing skills.
Yeah.
No. It's supposed to be optimistic and then even more tragic at the end, right? And that's, you know, the good metaphor.
And the disorientation there makes sense because the main character has no short-term memory. So if it's hard for you to remember what previously happened in
I feel like this
sequence,
movie gave me that condition.
yeah.
Hey,
I think at one
my
point,
bird.
we got hypnotized by Aubrey Plaza. I'm not really sure about that.
Because you know what? Almost all the actors are giving it their all, and it doesn't make sense, but Aubrey Plaza is very good in this, I think. I think Adam Driver is pretty good in this. I think Shia LaBeouf is good in this. Just nothing else holds. It's like you're watching MTV's music videos and trying to make a plot out of them. Each part of it's interesting, but there's nothing to hold everything together.
This movie was literally interrupted by a music video at one point.
And lost a version of things. Medieval times.
Yeah, this movie is like a musical crossed with like the Fountainhead crossed with the Matrix.
So
Yes, it's like the Across the Universe of.
Yeah, but again, Across the Universe had characters
Yeah.
with arcs.
and Beatles. And also, just to disagree with Matt, but also engage with Matt here, it's the opposite of the Fountainhead, because the whole point of it is to help example. It's a utopia as opposed to the opposite, which Fountainhead is not a utopia. It's that everyone is individual, and
I'm not.
no, it's libertarian.
I know.
Do we think
But I mean,
that
Caesar is this visionary with grand ideas, and everyone else is trying to pull him down.
Yes, but he's supposed to give away for free. You say this about education and creativity for free. It's as opposed to, again, for those of you who don't know what we're talking about Ayn Rand. If you don't know who Ayn Rand is, good on you. But she's an atheist who believes in libertarianism, who, like, everyone's supposed to survive on their own and improve on their own. So the idea that
He's someone who gets, or at least I think, I don't hear quoted as much now that Trump is the head of the conservative movement, but for a while she was who pretty much everyone on Fox News was quoting, even though she was an atheist. She was anti-abortion. She hated Ronald Reagan. All those wonderful conservative points. But
pro love,
yeah,
she's no marriage shouldn't matter.
Mm.
And so it matters here, because this is the opposite. Adam Driver is saying free education, free creativity, free rent for everyone. Like he's very liberal in that way. But the
But
problem
he's
is
also blowing up big chunks of the city.
to give those housing to the poor.
yeah, but the poor's houses are what he's blowing up in order to do that.
I mean, there are
And
protests.
that's why they're voting for Trump.
Yeah.
Which is Shia LaBeouf's character.
theory, guys, about this movie.
Oh yeah.
I think that Megalon is love.
No.
Oh.
Whoa, you
Well,
blew my mind.
because it was supposedly seemingly something he discovered when his wife died.
No. There's an old webcomic called BG Cats, and they were making fun of something, but they're like, I love you more than a loving river of loving love.
That's what and then you
Star Wars Episode 3. It's Padme. My love for you is like a loving river of lovely love.
you stand on the river of love and you can float away like a conveyor belt. No, but like really, because here's why. So he didn't discover it until his wife like died and he was like lost in mourning or whatever.
When loving,
he discovered
less loving love.
But then he was successful when Julia also saw it. Like she saw his video. So like she's like, okay, she sees it, and and that's what made it work. And it's invisible, and nobody can really see it. It's just if you believe in it, I think it's love.
You know what? That's as perfectly valid a theory as anything else I've heard.
Okay, so one of you has to help me, because no one's going to watch this movie and listen to this episode. How do we get to that point? The cold open is him almost committing suicide by jumping off the, it looks like the Empire State Building.
Yeah.
Right?
And then he stops time.
And then he stops time and doesn't jump off. And then from there, we go to a lot
Party.
Actually, you know what? I'm going to build on what Keiko said because I think that might actually be the point. And with all due respect to Keiko, if that is the point that Coppola was trying to make, that we need to love each other and unite, then I want to punch him even more. But, I mean, the whole idea is that we start hearing about that after he gets the mayor's daughter pregnant with the new baby. The new baby is called Sunny Hope, and at the end, the baby has that same power to stop time or is immune from it. I actually isn't immune from it because that would actually make more sense because it's not people getting trapped in the past and trapped in the old ways. It's moving forward to a brighter tomorrow with the youth of the nation. And just saying this, I feel like I need to go hang out with Tommy Chong for a bit and smoke whatever he's holding. God damn it. You know what? I think this is 100% right, but it's pissing me off.
No, it is, because again, we could talk about a number of scenes. For example, at the beginning, I said this is Julius Caesar interpreted, where Robert Moses is Julius Caesar, which I still stand by. But at one point, there's a scene where all of our main characters, including Dustin Hoffman and Giancarlo Esposito, are standing over a live model of the city. We've just seen Adam Driver destroy a building and stop time, and they're trying to decide what to do with that place, that building that's been destroyed. And Dustin Hoffman and Giancarlo Esposito pitch first, and their pitch is, let's make it a casino, because casinos, just like the modern lottery, will pay for education. We want to get people educated. We want to build up these places.
Do we ever actually see the casino?
We see nothing. We see the little 3D model.
We've seen the model, but he never actually builds it.
Because we end up with Megalopolis. And then, because this is the play Julius Caesar by William Shakespeare.
So I went in to speak to Tommy Chong. He's like, man, casinos aren't a place of love. They're just a place of lust. We need love, man.
That's kind of what happens.
Yeah.
Because Aubrey Plaza, who can't get an interview to save her life with the man he's boning. And then he comes out, and because this is Julius Caesar, of course, he gives the soliloquy from Hamlet. The entirety of the soliloquy from Hamlet, to be or not to be, that is the question. Whether it is nobler. And no one says fucking shit for 3 minutes while he does the whole thing. And then he threatens, then Giancarlo Esposito shows up and says, you know what? Your wife is dead, and I have the evidence because I was a prosecutor, and I'm also Rudy Giuliani.
No, yeah.
And then he calls him then Caesar calls him a slumlord. He loses his mind.
Yeah.
I guess. I mean, I'm not shrugging at Matt. Matt is right. But question mark. And everyone loses their mind, and Shia LaBeouf's like, do you want me to fuck you, my cousin or sister?
See?
And she's like, and he's like, I'm going to lick your face. And we're also like, fine. Fine movie. Fine movie. And then, do you think Robert De Niro was called and just didn't answer the phone? Like,
oh, and then we started to talk about the virgin sale at medieval times.
Describe selling a virgin, Keiko.
So they had a girl come out, and I didn't really understand why they had her sing, but she sang.
Because I think the actress is aspiring pop singer.
What does that have to do with her virginhood?
We got to kill 20 minutes, Keiko.
Vestal virgin, ancient Rome.
Yeah,
Why make her sing?
Best of virgins would sing. Is there a
did they have to sing?
Yeah, that might be something could be cut. Is this whole musical number?
Yeah, maybe the movie would make sense if they cut that.
Yeah, no, this movie needs.
No, but my point was, so they show this girl, she's singing this song, and then old guys start raising QR codes, which we have not confirmed. Can somebody look up if those QRs really are like?
Good. Could you imagine?
If they go somewhere, do they go to a link to bid on something? I don't know, but they're bidding on her, and someone wins her to marry, I guess, and to claim her virginity, and then somebody hacks the TV.
Shia LaBeouf.
Was it him?
And his Nazi guy make the guy in the control center plug in a flash drive.
And they put a video on, and it's Adam Driver and her sleeping together, but it's fake.
So
it's AI.
So according to Reddit, the QR codes were real and did work.
I believe that.
So
what do they do?
According to the image I'm seeing, it's just a little message that pops up that says, "Thank you for your pledge, XOXO Vesta." Looks like that.
Yeah.
You know what? Good on them.
I love it. I love stuff like that. So.
And again, we will decide whether this movie is genius or watchable or not. But the fact that, what was it? I think as I'm speaking, it is not the current most recent Super Bowl, but it's the year before. There was a hedge fund that just paid for a QR code for their Super Bowl commercial that just bounced around like the old DVD menu.
Mm-hmm.
And there was no explanation. It was just a QR code
Yeah.
that you would scan with your phone. And that's what this screams of. Like,
Yeah.
and again, Frankie Ford Coppola, as I'm recording, is still alive, and R.I.P.D. if he's not. But this is an old man shouting at the moon. But he's also not wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is also screams of OnlyFans, which again, I'm not going to shame anyone. But the idea of you're like, I'm a virgin and this is what I'm doing with it. That's what this smells of,
Yeah.
right? And the fact that Dustin Hoffman buys a virgin is a very different story, knowing his past. But the fact of the matter is, it's the QR codes to bid. It's the AI that we get later. The AI that's slandering people for political reasons, specifically. The fact that this Megalon is something that is not explained but promised is very Elon Musk, who promised to make those weird tubes that people could drive through without fire exits, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's a world where people promise the stars and we don't get it. And here at the end, it's all CGI nonsense. Feels like he's making a point.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird. I'm not saying this movie is brilliant yet. We'll get to the end. But, like, these points are very strange.
Yeah.
And he's making them very loudly and clearly. And as an Atlantan, the fact that all this is very clearly Atlantan
Yeah.
makes me feel awkward.
It is very weird.
My favorite, and again, we talked about this in the movie, where, like, I was watching Black Panther with friend the show Zach, and they're stealing an ancient artifact from the British Museum, and they're just at the High Museum downtown.
What was it, Truffaut who said that nobody could watch a movie filmed in their house because they'd spend the entire time looking at the wallpaper?
Well, and even in Adam Driver's office, when what's her name first shows up, there's this Calder thing, which looks exactly like the Calder in front of the High Museum.
Yeah.
And she hits it, and I'm just like,
Oh, yeah.
and Larry Fishburne has to stop, and I'm just like, oh, wait, I know exactly what she's doing, and what did they just say for the last 5.5 minutes? Oh, God. You know, this movie goes on for 6.5 weeks. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah, I mean, time, it really does at times make time stand still.
Thank God that handsome man looks at us for a while.
I think he is really good in everything. Like,
Adam Driver's actually.
I can't think of anything that I have not, like, really.
John Voight or Adam Schwartzman?
Adam Driver.
Oh.
Especially his horse commercial. This
What
is
did you
best
think?
work.
What did you think of him as the adult baby on Saturday Night Live? Did you ever see that?
Yeah, loved it.
Mm.
Not as good as the horse commercial, but it was up there.
Also, he's got, like, it's so funny. I hate this phrase, but he's got big dick energy throughout all of this. Like, because all the ladies want him, like, want on him, and you're just like, oh no, he's got, like, he's in charge here.
I think he kind of plays that, like, because we were talking about Annabelle. Did you see Annabelle?
I don't think I have. The doll movie?
The doll movie,
Yeah.
No.
where he basically, I forget what his character is in the movie. I know he, like, rides a motorcycle, but it's a musical, and he falls in love with a dancer, and basically it's like they're not really meant for each other, but she gets pregnant and she has a baby. The baby is a doll, like a marionette, and
This is Annabelle.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah,
I did not know Adam Driver was in that.
is if it's the right name of the movie. I don't know.
Are you talking about Annette?
Annette. Yeah, that's it. Annette. And that movie is really weird. It's a musical. It's got the guy from what The Big Bang Theory.
Just looking it up on Wikipedia now, who all's in this? Marion Cotillard, is that how you pronounce it? Is the wife that you were talking
Yeah,
about?
so she's the dancer.
Oh, Simon Helberg, is that who you're thinking of?
Yeah.
Yeah, that guy. Okay.
So he has the same kind of energy in that movie. Like people are interested in him, but he just is like single-minded and very, focused or whatever on his. So I don't know, maybe that's a theme. That movie's really weird too. I guess he just likes weird movies.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely, we talked about Terry Gilliam earlier, and he was in The Man Who Killed Don Quixote, so, I don't know.
Well, I guess being Kylo Ren so early on has made him have to make
He is breaking away from Star Wars pretty well, I'll give him that.
emotional choices.
Well, what was it? Marriage Story?
Yeah,
That
that
movie is
that movie's very
remarkable.
good.
I don't know. Frankly, as we were recording this in the Chris Mahana Kwanzaa season, I just wanted to be a lounge singer. That voice, like he must have 6 testicles. Like it's just so low. It just creaks out of.
Well, I mean, he played a solo, so maybe that's how he got the experience getting his voice down in that register.
Well, since he's
But
made of Megalon, I think he may have.
Apparently, you can make 6
12.
of them. Like that,
Yeah.
that scene at the end. And again, I was the one who saw this first, and so just watching people watch this seeps in my soul.
Nick was watching us, like maybe half as much as watching the movie.
I mean, again, like I would be like, and again, and I apologize because I love you all, but like Keiko would be making a joke and be like, shh. We're about to hear about.
We're about to hear about John Voight's boner.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, just wait. We're about to hear the greatest line of the movie. He goes, "Do you like my boner?" I'm like,
And then we were all traumatized for life.
Basically, you've mentioned this before, but Platinum Wow marries elderly John Voight and then has an affair with his nephew to stage a coup to seize control of the company. And at some point in the whole process, John Voight has a heart attack.
He has a stroke.
he has a stroke.
And-
That's why one eye is droopy.
And he pretends to be brain damaged and crippled. Then he's like, "You want to see my boner?" It's actually a bow and arrow.
Point of order, Wow Platinum, not Platinum Wow.
Isn't that a name of like a detergent?
Platinum Wow sounds like a ripoff of Now That's What I Call Music.
That's what I was thinking.
The Platinum Wow edition of Christmas. It's a CFs in a row.
So he shoots Platinum Wow or Wow Platinum, whatever her name is. Just call her Gold Digger. He shoots Gold Digger in the chest and then shoots Shia in the ass twice.
I'm not going to say she's
We-
a gold digger.
She's not,
It
'cause
is
she
the
wants-
broke hope. Well,
She wants
Broke. The radio edit, that's they just said broke twice.
broke.
this is not gold digger.
No, I say
It's gold R&B to a white woman. So
but I'm going to shoot him at her. I'm going to shoot him after you in the ass with the bow.
Okay, there we go.
This doesn't rhyme well.
you're fine. And yeah, so at the end of this, there's a attempted coup, but thanks to an old man erection, we save the day.
And then, Caesar gets to build his megalopolis, and there's hope for the future and a new Pledge of Allegiance.
Caesar makes a big speech, and then Shia LaBeouf and his Nazi henchman with the black sun tattoo get lynched Mussolini style.
Well, except at that point, Mussolini was dead when they hung him up.
They
and
drug him behind a truck for a while. Don't look up the pictures unless you like looking at horrible pictures, but he's missing half of his face and head and dignity.
Mussolini, what do you expect?
Well, since, and again, spoiler for the future, but this is supposed to be Donald Trump, which I think Coppola kept him alive for a reason.
I was actually making a joke about Mussolini losing his dignity.
No. Okay, so Matt, let me explain how metaphors work to you. Because if the metaphor is supposed to be based on Mussolini, a loudmouth fascist who talked about making Italy first again, and is supposed to be based on Donald Trump, and then Shia LaBeouf lives because he's supposed to be Donald Trump, guess what? As we're recording, Donald Trump is still alive.
Yeah,
I need to explain it further to you.
I thought John Voight was more meant to be him anyway, but it was like a combination of people.
Well, I mean, frankly, in this metaphor now, Elon Musk is supposed to be Crassus because he's the money, because Trump doesn't have the money,
Yeah.
right? And so who's the guy telling him what to actually do in order to get access to the money, right? Like, anyway, regardless, I think Francis Ford Coppola is still a very smart man despite this movie. And every so often, this movie has whiffs of genius. It just may not appear on the screen.
Are those your final thoughts there, Nick?
No, I was going to just ask, does anyone else have a scene they want to talk about before we wrap this up? And for those of you listening, as we're doing the worst of the previous year, just understand, of the movies we're going to do, and I've seen all of them at this point, this is the one that's the hardest to explain. And so part of me doing this episode, regardless of the reviews about to happen, I want you to see this to believe this, because this is the strangest movie we've ever done. And we've just come off of things like, God, we've done some really
We
weird
just did
ones.
Look Who's Talking.
We've done Look Who's Talking. What was that space movie we just did?
Ice Pirate.
Ice Pirates. Like, those movies are weird, but they have a point. But there's never been a movie we've done that's had this much money, this much drive, and this much effort put into a message. This almost feels like a bad environmental movie of the 90s,
Yeah.
and how hard it's trying to make a message, but nothing connects. And yet, there are moments that are purely genius and interesting. Question mark. So, because you're the only one not looking at their phone right now, Keiko.
Nah.
What's your final thoughts?
I don't know. It was enjoyable to watch. Despite, so I like a movie that can make you feel uncomfortable. I like that. And this movie does that. Like, there are times when you feel like anxiety or tense. There's the sound of like clocks ticking in the background.
Constantly.
And I feel like that, and I think that might be maybe part of what Nick responds to, because he's like freaking out watching the movie. Like would get like amped up and have to like walk around and stuff. And it didn't get me quite that badly, but I could still feel that kind of tension while watching it. And I like that. I like a movie that can do that. Even though it may not be super pleasant while you're doing it. But I noticed that there were a lot of like there is like confusion, and then like something really funny would happen, and then confusion, and then something that's like interesting and striking, and I think they're going to take the story somewhere cool. And then a lot of confusion. So I don't know. I just need to think about it. That's all I got.
Matt?
You got some interesting visuals and some interesting parts, but it doesn't make a lot of sense. And maybe if it was tightened up a bit and more linear.
For the record, I had the IMDb page open, so that's what I was looking at on my phone. This is, I still think that of what we're gonna do for this month, it's unique. It's by far the most unique. Spoilers. I'm not sure the order this is coming out in, but one of the ones we're doing is Madam Web, which is utterly not unique.
Next week, yeah.
And utterly just a cliched superhero tribe. This isn't that. This is a very unique vision by one of the greatest filmmakers ever. And I know that there's going to be a lot of defenders of this. That wouldn't surprise me at all. Now, I don't do drugs. I'm not going to advocate anyone else do drugs. If you told me that you need to do a lot of drugs to understand this movie, I'd believe you. I don't think I'm going to be one of those defenders. I get what he was trying to do, but his biggest problem was that Coppola's biggest problem is that he was so obsessed with the ideas of making this allegory for Rome and the U.S. that he forgot to do things like add characters, add a protagonist that people can relate to, have character arcs that would shock people. I mean, it was all just about kind of like the Fountainhead, just barraging you with ideas until you were essentially beaten into submission. I know there are some people who are already going to defend this, and like I said, I think time with what's going to happen over the next 4 years might be very kind to this movie. But as of right now, I'm not willing to be very kind to it. It was a big slog.
So I will go ahead and just say, like, I wish friend of this show, Jeremy Rigel, was here too, because I feel like, I'm not going to say he would argue with us. I just want to hear his opinion because he's a film guy I recommend. I'm not going to say I like this movie yet, but I've seen a lot of movies this year, including movies that came out in the last couple of years. This is the one I think about the most. How often do you think about movies after you see them? Since Thanos snapped his fingers and killed Robert Downey Jr., I haven't cared about Marvel movies because they all feel the same to me. I'm excited about the James Gunn trailer, but like so many movies feel very flaccid and repeated and the same. This felt like nothing I'd seen before. Does that make it good? Absolutely not.
Certainly not flaccid.
No, it's definitely not flaccid. We've seen many erections, including my boner, which is going to kill Shia LaBeouf, which is winner. But like, it reminded me of Terry Gilliam. It reminded me of some weird Brian De Palma shit. It reminded me a lot of why I like film. Does that make this a good movie? Not necessarily. But something that's weird kept my attention. So many movies we've done, especially recent movies, God help me, they're flushable. They're the same. Yeah. I leave happy, but I leave happy because Disney movies are designed to make me happy. Inside Out 2 is a fine movie. It is not memorable. This is memorable. You're going to wake up in the middle of the night and you're going to go to the restroom and you're going to be like, but why the fuck were they dancing? How does that scene make sense? And then you're going to have to think about your life. A good movie should make you think about your life. And it doesn't have to be stripped down like The Bicycle Thieves. The original Apocalypse Now is weird. And then he said 20 years later, what if I made it trippier and an hour longer? That's what Coppola does. I don't hate this movie, but I think you should see it.
How old is Francis Ford Coppola at this point?
He's
85.
He's in mid-80s. And here's the thing. This may well be his last production. And if this is how he goes out, it's like giving us a Da Vinci Code, but without the asshole. Like, this is a movie. Can you imagine if the last thing you make is something people will talk about for 20 years? I think after making The Godfather and Godfather 2, and after making Apocalypse Now, you're already in the echelon of making the greatest director of all time.
Mm-hmm.
He's not going to be that director, but he's up there. And then you make a mystery that no one will ever be able to resolve, you're fine. If his last movie was Jack, oof. But if this is your last movie, this is going to be in a film class next year.
Yeah.
I think that's okay. Does that make it good? No. It means it's on our fucking podcast. Godfather 2 is not on the podcast. This movie is on our podcast.
Now imagining a 105-year-old Francis Ford Coppola on a Bacta tank or like a Warhammer 40.
Oh, no.
Warhammer 40,000 Emperor's Golden Throne, like planning the director's cut like he did for Apocalypse Now. Because I think Keiko said that there's got to be a missing hour in here that makes it more sense.
Yeah. Maybe they just cut some stuff out that we just need.
So you know what? Buy yourself a bottle of Coppola wine and figure that shit out for him. Because you know what? There's a hotel in Atlanta. I'll tell you what, if y'all chip in and you buy it for us, we will do another Coppola movie in a room at the Coppola Hotel with a bottle of Coppola wine, and we'll do Godfather 3. I'll tell you what, okay? We'll do Jack. We'll do Jack as an episode in the Coppola Hotel if you pitch in for this, all right? Is that good?
Or good? It's your Venmo.
Yeah. Okay. So reach out to me through Dude Letter on Venmo, or Myopia Movies on X, and Blue Sky. We're on Blue Sky now, so find us there, Myopia Pod. Anyway, so this whole month we're going to do the worst of the previous year, And as Daniel alluded to, next week we're doing Madame Web. The week after that, I'm doing a movie I saw with Zeus, and we're going to watch together called Argyle, which is a Henry Cavill picture, and it is awful. Every twist makes it worse. As the guy who did not Watchmen, The Kingsman. He did the Kingsman movies.
Oh.
It's a Vaughn movie. And then the last one bummed me out, but also made perfect sense because it is a Jamie Lee Curtis movie called Borderlands.
Oh.
We're doing the Borderlands movie. All of these movies lost a lot of money for major movies. And by the way, I will just throw out for Argyle, which I saw in theaters, and it was a bad movie. And I thought it was based on a book because there's a book called Argyle, which I listened to the audiobook of. Turns out it was written by the director in order to lure people in to watch the movie.
Oh, no.
And it's even worse than the movies.
No.
Oh, it busted my balls. So enjoy this while the Academy Awards are on. So thanks, everyone. Bye. Thanks for listening.
Myopia Movies is a podcast production of Dude Letter Podcasting and is produced by Nick Hoffman. It is edited by Nerd Trinette and Daniel Suttis and is hosted by Nick Hoffman, with production assistance by Matthew Quinn, Daniel Suttis, and Nerd Trinette. The theme song is Surf Shimmy by Kevin MacLeod from incomptech.com. Licensed under the Creative Commons by Attribution for License, Creative Commons /licenses by /4.0. Thanks.